Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. It's match day as well. Excitement for the 5:30 kickoff, of course. We've got to win today, but we've got lots to talk about this morning because Ruben Amorim is saying, I don't care what Arne Slot says about Manchester United. Basically, keep your big nose out of my business. Amorim coming out fighting, some very interesting comments. Apparently, he's saying, I'm doing the best for Manchester United. Everything I do is for the betterment of Manchester United. We'll go through some of Ruben Amorim's comments. Very interesting stuff, talking about Cunha, talking about Bruno. Also, Bruno's release clause that we came out with last night. I haven't spoken to you since yesterday morning. I was watching Terry's show last night. I was watching it this morning, actually, and look, this release clause that Bruno Fernandes apparently has is £56 million to anybody outside of Europe. I was listening to what he had to say himself. I'll make my decision after the World Cup. I mean, this is not a player that is definitely staying. And it makes me laugh that people think he is. So I'll talk about that. But I want to get into, because I actually think it's a good thing he's got a release clause. I don't know. I think Man United is stupid putting a release clause in there. You know, you give a player who's on 250 grand a week a pay rise and then stick a release clause in it. I thought it was one of my FC 26 career modes. I mean, I'm crap at negotiations. Hello, can I have a 50 grand a week pay rise? Yes. Can I put a release clause in as well? Yes. So I'll pay you more money to put a clause in that wasn't there. Yeah, brilliant from Man United. But we'll talk about that. I want to talk about what Ruben Amorim's had to say first. So I got sent this actually this morning by Terry. It's a tweet that's out there basically, and it gives a little bit of a backdrop to this. So at the United Archive put a tweet out, I believe last night or yesterday, saying that Manchester United are officially a long ball team under Amorim. This isn't how Manchester United are meant to play. Man United have the most long ball passes by a club in the Premier League this season with 481 long passes, putting us number one ahead of Wolves, who are second with 474. The top five includes Man United at the top, then Wolves, then Bournemouth, then Burnley, then Everton. So not really your quintessential footballing sides, although I do like the way Bournemouth play. Look, I think in regards to Manchester United and long ball, I spoke about this on the preview on Thursday night. And I mean, different stats providers provide different stats. Y-Scout have us second to Wolves. So we're in the top two for long ball. Does that make us a long ball team? Well, we'll listen to what Ruben Amorim had to say about that. And I don't think that's the way we're going to play today. But in relation to what Arne Slot had said, where he basically said that Man United were difficult to play against because they just kept pumping the ball long, this is what Ruben Amorim had to say. I don't care what Arne Slot is saying. Sometimes you need to adapt to the game. I don't need anyone to evaluate my team. I can evaluate my team myself. So, look, Ruben Amorim coming out fighting against Liverpool's manager, having beat him in his own backyard. I mean, the trouble with sour grapes is if you lose a game of football, then you leave yourself open to that sort of thing. I think we need to move past the Liverpool game, really. It was a fantastic result for us. Leave it to Liverpool. You know, that's the whole point of beating your rival. You beat them, you move on. We've got Brighton. It's a bigger game than Liverpool, and it's today. Liverpool, obviously, do not like losing. They're used to winning. And they do not like losing at home to their biggest rival, which is Man United. I think what Amorim is saying, leave it to Slot. Let him keep moaning. We've got our own journey, and it ain't nothing to do with Liverpool. They got beat because we went there and did a job on them. We did something that every single one of us seemed to agree with a week ago. We can't go there and play open. We have to play counter-attacking football. We did that, and then you get criticised for it. I remember Erik ten Hag going there a couple of years ago, and it was the first time we went after the 7-0. And everyone was going, oh, you're going to get beat 7-8-0 again. And he went there and parked the bus. We got a 0-0 draw. We had hardly any shots. They had about 30. And the criticism was, you can't go to Anfield and park the bus. And I think sometimes this is the problem with Manchester United. Sometimes this is the problem with the noise around Manchester United. No matter what you do, you can't win. The only thing you can do is win the league. But trust me, I've seen us win the league and get criticised. So at Manchester United, you're always going to get scrutinised. And I think that's why recruitment is really important. There will never be a point where you get total praise. Even after we won the treble, there was rumblings that we needed to bring in more signings than we did. So there is always going to be criticism. There is always going to be scrutiny. And I think people saying, oh, we're a long ball team now. I mean, you know, Amorim finally wins 2 games in a row and is on the verge of 3, maybe 4. And we're a long ball team now. It doesn't matter what Amorim does. It doesn't matter what Manchester United do. He will always get criticism. It's like I put this tweet out the other day and someone said, oh, and Goldbridge is acting like a United fan. It's a stat. It's a fact. I basically said Ruben Amorim needs to win 17 games in a row to equal Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's win ratio. And he got sacked. And people are going, oh, Forest fan, not a proper United fan. What are you talking about? It's a bloody fact. What I'm saying is fact. What I'm saying is that Ruben Amorim is not out of the woods. What I'm saying is that his win ratio is appalling and he's got a long way back. And starting to criticise him about long ball and everything like that is a little bit premature when 2 weeks ago people wanted him sacked. I don't know what we're thinking of when we go, we did beat Liverpool, the champions of England, in their own backyard, but why didn't we beat them 6-0 by playing prime Barcelona? You know, we've got to be real. And I think that I don't think against Brighton today we're going to play in a way that's long ball. And if we do, then we can scrutinise that in the match reaction. But ultimately, long ball and a win, or open and lose. You know? And that poses a bigger question if we win playing crap, because I would say all that matters is winning, but we're definitely in survival mode, and at some point you're going to have to come out of that. But in the short term, it's a long way back. And I think if you said to Amorim, you can win the next 6 games in a row with long ball, or you can try and play open and win 3, he's going to say, give me the 6. And that's where we are at the moment. I don't like it. I don't like the low running to the other side of the pitch to launch a bloody Rory Delap into the box. But that's where we are because of what's happened over the last few years. We were rock bottom after the Europa League final. We didn't buy a midfielder in the summer. We're not going to play... We've got Bruno Fernandes in the midfield. Like, we're not going to play vintage football. Why do you think we're hitting so many long balls? Because our number 1 midfielder loves a Hail Mary. He loves a high-risk long ball. I saw a stat today that Bruno Fernandes has created more chances than anybody else. He always does. I guarantee most of those are bloody long balls. Somebody said he's made the most recoveries in the middle of the pitch as well. I love the way people pick the 2 stats that fit. Do you want me to go and find the 50 stats that show that Bruno doesn't pick up the runners? That he's out of position all the time? We're playing survival football at the moment, and I'm hoping to see an evolution today. But you can't moan that you want to sack a manager because he's losing games, and then when he starts winning games, start having a moan at him. Arne Slot needs to stay in lane and focus on Liverpool. Man United's lane is way, way behind them. And that's why today, to me, it's just about winning. And when the team news comes out, and if we win with long ball, I would say to everybody, please wait till the game's over. Because last week we just saw a load of people saying, I'm officially Amorim out before the bloody ball had been kicked against Liverpool. But look, that's it. I thought they said he must adapt and win games, says Visco. Exactly. And that's what I mean, Visco. You're sort of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Liverpool had more successful long balls versus us, says Dan. Yeah, mate, I mean, I'm not playing that game. You know, I'm not playing that game. Liverpool are a better footballing side than us. You know, own it. Of course they are. We are playing very direct. We know that. We did park the bus. Let's not try and pretend Liverpool we're playing like Liverpool. That's a futile argument that you will lose. The point is, everybody said to go to Liverpool, we're going to have to park the bus and counter. And we did. So what's the criticism? So I'm proud of him switching to long ball. It's logical if we cannot get his players back and to Amorim in for now, says Keel Robinson. And playing to bypass the midfield that can't cope with presses, it's logical from Amorim at the moment. And we might see that again today, MJ. We need to stop talking about Liverpool and focus on today. The media is never going to get off our backs, and we need to accept that. That's a great point from the United guy. Absolutely spot on. And Delo plays for the other side. Will he start, says Nick. I think he will, yes. Jordan says, just so you know, in Sporting, his centre-backs always went for the long ball. We kind of knew the long balls were coming, says Jordan. I don't think we did at United, to be honest. Happy birthday to my guy, Oliver Howard, says D. Smith. Happy birthday to Oliver. And good morning, Marky, says Sean. Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. And it's match day. We should be feeling a little bit excited today. But look, there's a lot of things I want to go through this morning because Amorim's embargoed press conference section came out, and he's also spoken to Sky as well about he'll do everything for Manchester United. In fact, I want to come back to that one, actually. I'll come back to that now. But Nick P with the super chat says, funny what a week does without football. From no tactics, Amorim on the verge of the sack, to long ball tactical mastermind doing sofa interviews at Sky. You know what? I was in the shower this morning and I was thinking about, and I have said it to you before, we're going through a really weird time in the Premier League at the moment. And in a way, I admire what Ruben Amorim's doing, even though I bloody hated it when it used to happen. So Bolton were like Arsenal's kryptonite. And I'm talking Wenger's Arsenal, the very good Arsenal side, right? So Bolton, with Sam Allardyce, Kevin Davies and all that lot, Kevin Nolan, used to cause teams massive problems. They'd be in the top half, but their football was basically pump it long, win the second ball. And loads of people struggled with it. Bolton at one point, I think, played in Europe. They were a really difficult team to beat. And they basically survived on physicality, long ball, and most important of all, if you don't win the first ball, you win the second ball. And we saw United do that last week. Konate and Van Dijk would win the first header, and then we would win the second ball, and we'd win the ball higher up the pitch. It's funny because I think people thought that was dead. I think people thought the Rory Delap long throw-in from Stoke all those years ago was dead. And what we're seeing in the Premier League at the moment is this renaissance of what was basically ridiculed football. But in football, every fine margin is an advantage. And what I mean by that is every little bit that you can do that everyone else isn't doing could be the difference between drawing and winning or losing and drawing. We've seen over the last 18 months that Arsenal have basically turned set pieces into the NFL. You watch an Arsenal corner and then you watch American football and it's like a play. You know, you see them all running around and they spent a lot of time on that. The consistency of Arsenal scoring goals, by the way, is brilliant. But I watch Man United every week. The consistency of corner delivery from Declan Rice and Saka is elite. It's not just the people getting on the end of it. How many times do our corners not beat the first man, etc.? So they've got that down to a fine art. What we saw last week and what we might continue to see is the evolution or the rebirth of Allardyce ball and Pulis ball. And the reason it's being successful at the moment is because Pep Guardiola ball, which you'll see in League One and League Two playing out from the back, everybody just copied it. And in doing that, we just saw a massive surge of ball-playing centre-backs specifically. And what's a ball-playing centre-back normally? A little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. And I think what we're seeing now is put it in the mixer. Play the percentage ball, pump it long, throw it into the box, get the corner in around the goalkeeper. And a lot of teams don't really have players that are good at it, which is why Gabriel looks like, you know, the best centre-back in the world. Because he's just the prototype, I'll win everything in the air. Maguire is another one. So I don't like this style of football, but I can understand. I was thinking about it in the shower. I can understand. I was thinking about Bolton in the shower. I thought, you know what? Is this not a weakness in the modern game? The physicality, the ability to deal with second balls, the football that we tried to bury, basically. The football that Pep Ball buried. None of that crappy long ball anymore. But the problem is, it's a bit like a vaccine, isn't it? You know, you give a vaccine for an infection and, oh, we've got rid of that. It's over for you. And then the infection over the years finds a way around it to evolve into a new infection. And I think people thought we buried the long throw-in, the long ball. And I was very happy for that to be dead. But by burying it, there aren't many people who can actually play it now. And those who can are suddenly overwhelming. I mean, look at Frankfurt against Liverpool. They're playing well, they're 1-0 up. Before they know it, they're 3-1 down because of a powerful Liverpool team that are good at set pieces. So football is always evolving. And just because we think it's going to get better, sometimes the crazy gang Wimbledon tactics can work in 2025. And that's the way it is at the moment. I don't think it will last very long. But if you can get points from it at the moment until you have to change again, you know. Anyway, look, I want to talk about some of Amorim's comments, but I just want to quickly go back to Bruno Fernandes. So last night, look, this is a great point. Ronnie says, the trouble is, if you lose, everyone will cry. When you win, people criticise the style. I think you're half right, Ron. I think you're half right. I'm happy when Man United win. Most of us were very happy with that Liverpool win. I think all of us were. And I'll be very happy with the Brighton win. You can always be constructive and say, what's the vision? You know, I said after the Liverpool game, that is literally, if you played that game 10 times, Liverpool would probably win it 7. And also, if you play that way for 38 games, you'll probably finish 8th. So, but as a one-off game, absolutely brilliant. And you want to know what the future vision is, and hopefully we'll see that against Brighton today. But the problem is, if you play like that and lose, you are on thin ice. You've got to keep winning if you're going to play like that. Because if Stoke play like that, or Bolton play like that, their fans will go, well, we're living the dream, we're mid-table in the Premier League. But if you play like that as a Liverpool or a Man United, and you start losing, that's when it becomes a problem. As we saw with Solskjaer, it's like your football's not that good and you're losing games now. Let me talk to you about Bruno Fernandes. So basically, Bruno Fernandes did an interview yesterday, and I'm going over old ground a little bit, but this is just my opinion because I've had a few people message me for it, so bear with me. Yesterday, Simon Stone put an article out saying that Bruno Fernandes has a release clause of £56 million that a club outside of Europe can pay. And basically, that means he can go. Bruno Fernandes, in his interview, said that Bruno, there was talks with Saudi, and the club said the money is a lot of money. But ultimately, Amorim wanted him to stay, and he, feels there's unfinished business at Man United, and his family wanted to stay as well. I think listening to Bruno's interview, I learned nothing that we didn't already know. I think Man United put it to Bruno and said, that's a lot of money if you want to go. I think Bruno thought it through, i.e. was thinking about it. It wasn't a flat no. Amorim said, I don't want you to go. And his family said, we don't want to go. And I think that's the story. That's the 4 strands. Saudi came in with big money. Bruno thought about it. The club said, think about it. Amorim said, please don't go. And then his family didn't want to go. And I think that's what happened in the summer. Bruno also added that regardless of agreements next summer, he's not aware of anything like that. He said to his agent, as he always does, I'm not talking about my future until after the World Cup. So Bruno Fernandes is in a very strong position. Now, for Manchester United, the World Cup's not till the end of bloody mid-July if Portugal go far. So what do I think about that scenario? Well, a lot of it I think we already know. I think Bruno could leave in the summer, 100%. I think what happened last summer, everybody knows he thought about it. And what we do know categorically is that it was Ruben Amorim that really was like, please don't go. And that's evidenced by what I'm about to read you about what Amorim said about Bruno yesterday. What do I think about the release clause being 56 million? Well, I've seen some people react to it and go, we're bloody idiots because that's cheaper than the 90 million that Saudi were going to give us. And I've seen people going, that's ridiculous, etc., etc. I don't really care about the release clause, to be honest with you. I do think as a football club we're stupid because Bruno was on 250 grand a week. We had a shit season. He got a pay rise to 300 grand a week and obviously a release clause. And I would question the validity of that, considering he had a long contract on 250 grand a week. If he knocked on my door and said, I want a pay rise and a release clause, I would have said, you've got 3 years left on your deal. It's 250 grand a week. We've just had a shit season. Crack on or find a move. Good luck with that. I wouldn't have given him the pay rise and I wouldn't have given him the bloody release clause, but welcome to Man United. But actually, the release clause doesn't really matter because what people are missing here is whether the release clause is 56 million or it's 70 million, nobody's paying it anyway. No one's paying 56 million pounds for Bruno Fernandes next summer. He's 32 and he's on 300 grand a week. No one's going to pay that. No, nobody in Europe's going to pay that. So the only place he can go is Saudi anyway. That release clause from United, I don't know why it's there, and I don't know the details of when it has to be triggered, but no one's going to pay it anyway. The only people who pay it is Saudi, and that's the place he could have gone last summer anyway. Bayern Munich are not going to give us 56 million pounds and then give him 300 grand a week. Neither are PSG, neither are Real Madrid, neither are Barcelona, and he can't do it to a Premier League club. So nobody is going to give us £56 million and pay that wage. And remember, he's on that wage for a few years. So I'm like, whatever. This Bruno story will keep going on and on and on. And some people will be like, he's not going to leave. And some people will go, I wish he'd leave. And some people are going to go, I think he'll leave. And some people are going to go, he's brilliant in the midfield. And some people are going to go, he's not very good in the midfield. But the bottom line is, Bruno Fernandes is Ruben Amorim's favourite player. And he's going to play every single game this season that he's fit. And the decision on his future will not happen till July. We just got to get on with it. And the conversation will continue. And some people will tell you he's the best thing since sliced bread. And some people will say he isn't. And some games he'll be world class. And some games he'll be shit. And look, we're just going to have to continue the conversation, aren't we? Even last week against Liverpool is the perfect example. He puts in an assist to win the game that nobody can do. And then he plays for 80 minutes absolutely shit in the midfield. So it's just going to be one of those conversations. And to be honest with you, I find it quite tiring because it's like, what are we actually learning? Like, we're trying to win games. He's in the team. I just want him to play well. And until the summer, nothing's going to happen anyway. We can't... He would have gone to Saudi, I think, if his family wanted to go. Amorim doesn't want him to go. The club probably would have liked the money. That's not breaking news to me. It really isn't. Hi, Goldbridge. I'm in Hawaii, and I can't wait to watch United at 6:30 a.m. I got my cut waters ready. Cheers, mate. Love the United stand. Yeah, it's match day, Lil. Let's have it. Simple football with good players wins, says Keel. The only stat that matters is the 3 points. Liverpool can go cry into their porridge for all I care, says Dave the Brave. Well, yeah, look, Seb was looking at the league table this morning and he was going, we'll be second today. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we're definitely going to be second today. And I said, well, we've got to win. And he said, yeah, well, we are going to win, aren't we? And I said, yes, we are. And then he said, we're going to be second in the league. And I was like, he normally knows more than me. But I know what he's talking about. If we win the game, we go to 16 points. But obviously, he hasn't mastered the art of goal difference yet because we won't be second. Man City will be second. Also, we won't even be third because if Chelsea win, we'll be fourth. But if we win today, I think I'm right in saying we're definitely top 5. We could even be fourth. But at the end of the night, even if Liverpool win and Chelsea win, we'd be 5th. Which is exactly where I want to be. Psychologically, I think, all right, it might only be for 24 hours, but what an opportunity that is for us to go and, get ourselves into the top 5 after what's been a challenging start to the season. So that, for me, is the real win today, is to get that win and get into a position in the league where we can go, you know what, this is great. Right, I want to go through some of Amorim comments before I come back to you. This is what he had to say about Bruno Fernandes. He deserves to win titles for this club. He suffers a lot in difficult moments. He must forget all the previous matches because he still has a lot to do. He is very important. I think when I listened to, and Bruno himself in his interview said, I haven't been much able to give the success that this club wants and deserves. Also, the success that I wanted in my head when I signed. Everyone knows my aim is to win the Premier League and the Champions League with the club. So it's interesting, isn't it? When, I want to just pose a question. When Amorim says Bruno deserves to win titles at this club and has been a victim of the surroundings, and when Bruno says, I want to win the Champions League and the Premier League at this club, is it a case of Bruno's been unlucky with what's going around him? Or is it a case that Bruno's part of the problem why we're not winning titles? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Because I was listening to Amorim say that I'm going to do what is best for Manchester United. And I listened to this minute clip in his interview with Sky. And he was like, all I'm interested in is doing what's best for Manchester United. All I'm interested in is doing what's best to take this club back to winning trophies. And when I say trophies, I mean the Premier League. I mean the Champions League. And he said, I might not be the guy that wins those trophies, but I want to be the guy that takes them on the journey to winning those trophies if I can't be the guy that wins them. So he's talking like everything he does is to make Manchester United better in the long term. And he really does believe that Bruno Fernandes is a massive part of that future success for the club. I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted because I've posed a very difficult question for a Saturday morning on the game day, and we probably should be doing this next week on an 8 o'clock show, and maybe we will revisit it. So I'll try and keep it short. Do I think Bruno Fernandes is the player to take us to the Premier League and the Champions League? Do I believe that Ruben Amorim is doing the best for Manchester United by building the team around Bruno? Yes and no. I understand why he's doing it, because he's our best player. But I wonder whether he's actually done his homework, because, and this is something I've mentioned before, Ten Hag ignored everything Rangnick would have told him. Ollie ignored everything Mourinho would have told him. And I don't feel like Amorim has taken anything on board from those managers either. It's almost like every manager that comes in football. I mean, do you think Deitch is there at Forest learning what went wrong with Ange? Or do you think he comes in and goes, I'm Deitch, I'll do it my way? I think a lot of managers are... Look at Mourinho after Van Gaal. You know, they're managers we want, but it's almost like it's inbuilt into a manager to go, I don't care what they did, we'll do what I want. And there are lessons that I think we as fans get frustrated by, because we live it with every manager, so we see the mistakes and we remember them. And I don't know that Amorim has really done his homework on the however many years we've had with Bruno at the club. Because it's always been this debate now, Ten Hag, Ollie, our best player, without a shadow of a doubt, but sometimes our worst player. Our most inspirational player, without a doubt, but sometimes our most damaging player. Our most creative player, without a doubt, but sometimes our most indisciplined player. And that's been going on for numerous years. So, look, there's nothing I would like more than to see Bruno Fernandes lifting a Premier League title with Ruben Amorim as the manager. But do I listen to the words of those players and that manager and that player and go, yes, this is the path to walk? I'm yet to be convinced. I'd love to see it, but I'm yet to be convinced, because with my own eyes, over the years, collectively, I've seen the match reactions over many years where he's had a 4 out of 10. I've seen the match reactions when he's had an 8 out of 10. And when we're trying to find consistency, I don't think that that's a word that is something that we can yet necessarily apply to Bruno. I also don't think he's necessarily going to be here next season anyway. To be honest with you, I sort of feel and hope that this is the theory. I think Ruben Amorim wants Bruno Fernandes and Harry Maguire and Casemiro because in the short term, he knows he needs them to survive. But in the long term, he knows he needs to move them out to progress. And I think that's something you cannot say publicly. But that's my theory. I think that Harry Maguire and Casemiro and Bruno, they can't be here in 2 or 3 years. They just physically can't. But right here, right now, is Maguire a better player than Yoro in certain situations? Amorim obviously thinks so. Is Casemiro a better player than Ugarte? Amorim obviously thinks so. And the same with Bruno and Manu. So I think I don't get too het up about long-term predictions. I think it's about now. And that brings us back to what we've been talking about throughout the whole show. Tactics, style of play, Bruno, Amorim. It really doesn't matter what happens tomorrow if we fail today. And to win today, we might have to do things that we don't want to do tomorrow. You know? It's a bit like cleaning your room when you want to be down the park playing football. Maybe you're cleaning the room today so that you can have a free day tomorrow. And I think that's what it is. And that's why I don't get too stressed. I mean, I'll constructively talk about it. I still don't like Bruno in the midfield. I'm still not convinced that we can win a title with him. I think, actually, if we're going to win a title with Bruno, it will be with Bruno. It won't be because of Bruno. I think the Mbeumos, the Cunhas, the De Lits, the Dorgus, the Yoros, the Lammens, the Seskos, the other midfielder that you bring in, they're going to be the players that take us to winning the title. And maybe that fits in with surrounding Bruno with better players, you know? Build a team, etc., etc. Bruno is the only player other teams and fans respect, says Nick. Well, I don't think we're respected as a team, mate, so I don't think that really matters. But as I've said to you before, you put Bruno Fernandes in a Bayern Munich team, I think he'd be good. as a number 10. We don't even play him in his best position. The only stat, done that one from Nick P as well. Thank you very much. Okay, I want to get through a few more comments from Amorim before we lock down, because I know today is going to be all about match day. I loved what he said about Cunha, by the way. He brings something that is hard for us to point at. It's not just the ability and the talent. He has something that he is really comfortable playing in this kind of environment. He can take our team forward. He needs to improve a lot of things, especially defending, but he has something special and he's a really important player for us. He can play in different positions, so I expect the same in the next game, because in our club, it's really important to show it every week. I'm glad he spoke about Cunha like that, because I really do not believe that Mount should be playing ahead of him. I actually believe Cunha has the ability to be our next Bruno, our next pivotal player, and maybe Mbemo as well. There's a lot of potential for that for a few players, but I think what he's saying is that he knows how to play in a team where you're up against the wall. He knows how to play in environments that are dirty and, you're the underdog. And a lot of our players can't play that way. We've seen it. You look at the Europa League final, 15th in the league, 7-0 at Anfield. There's multiple players at this club that just can't deal with that, getting down in the gutter and working hard. And I think we saw that with Cunha at Anfield last week. He was willing to roll his sleeves up and battle with the ball on his own against 2 or 3 players. And that's the mentality that we need. We need 11 players like that. So it's good that he is, realising that and talking about that, of course. He also spoke about Lammens. He said, I'm a bit surprised by his impact because it's a difficult moment for our club with everything surrounding the goalkeeper. He handled the pressure very well. He is very calm. Nowadays, it's very important to be able to play with both feet to strike the ball well, especially when you have to play like against Liverpool with a more direct style. So I'm a bit surprised, but I expected a talented player. But yes, a bit surprised. So I think that's an indication to me that Lammens wasn't the goalkeeper that Amorim wants, which is what we pretty much know. And I suppose this is a vindication of how it's important to have a recruitment team, because obviously somebody else has to take credit for Lammens, because it wasn't Amorim who was like, go and get him. But he's obviously been surprised by how good he is, and I think that's a credit to the recruitment of him. Obviously took a little bit of time for him to trust him. He stuck with Binder, didn't he, at the start? But, I mean, that shirt's his. And I think hopefully he'll have another big game today, because it's an important win for United today, and we have to go and get it. And I think as well in there, he drops another hint that it's not about playing direct all the time. It was like, against Liverpool, when you have to play direct, Lammens is, very good at kicking it long. He also spoke about JJ Gabriel. He says, like everyone, I know that he's a really talented guy and everyone pays attention on social media, but you can also see that the under-21s had a game, so we were short on players, and you tried to put some players up that have talent. As we've spoken about Gabriel, he can't play anyway until next season because of his age, which is a little bit of a shame. But look, training with the first team can only be a positive, certainly. So, what are your thoughts about the game today? Are you feeling confident? I think it's. We've just been sent another comment in here. It's not very good actually. Arch Rain says, you just got it perfect. Cunha will probably be our next Bruno, but I would never give him the captaincy because of his emotions, just like Bruno. Yeah, I mean, the captaincy is a completely different conversation, but it's a relevant one at some point. We need leaders in that team. We need cool heads in that team. And I think, Harry Maguire, I can understand why Ollie gave him the captaincy, but Harry Maguire is 100% a player that's better without it. I think he thinks he is a captain, and he definitely is a leader in the dressing room. But he isn't. He's got the thing about Maguire is, if he just focuses on his game, he's got some certain assets where he's one of the best in the world, i.e., heading the ball. But he's slow. He's not good in one-on-one situations, and sometimes he gets found out. And I think, as much as he wants to be the leader, I think there are weaknesses to his game that when you're captain as well, that's another job. And I think he's just a very important player in the dressing room, but you can't give him the captaincy because I don't think he plays well enough week in, week out. He's got to focus on his game. Bruno is too indisciplined, and as we see, he's a shouter, so I don't think that necessarily works. So then you're sort of left going, well, we don't really have anybody then, do we? I'd agree Cunha as captain might not be the best because he's quite volatile. I think somebody like De Ligt would be perfect, as we've said. He's done it before. But I don't think he's even in the leadership team. So I'm old school. I think captaincy is still very important. Some people say not, but I've seen the impacts of Roy Keane and John Terry and Steven Gerrard and all these captains in the Premier League era. I still think that they can be very impactful. I see people saying you don't need a captain anymore, and I think that's a load of bollocks. A manager from the touchline can't do a lot. A captain can. I mean, why would you not need a captain anymore? You know, think about a set piece. Think about a team that's under pressure, and then you've got a captain, manager on the pitch telling people what to do. You know, organising. So I do think they're important. It's a difficult one to solve, though. Ryan, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining and getting your badge in. To me, this game is bigger than Liverpool because if these lads don't turn up, then win means nothing, just like a load more meant nothing, says PZ. I think I'll get more questions in my head the closer we get to 5:30, which is the kickoff time. But I am still very confident that we'll win. I think from what I've seen, some in this chat, some on social media, I think there's too many people trying to justify that we won't win because Brighton have been our bogey team or we played long ball against Liverpool. I think people are forgetting that against Burnley, against Fulham for the first 20 minutes, against Sunderland and against Chelsea, we actually played well. And 3 of those games were at home. I really genuinely think we'll be fine. And I know that's, oh, you know, if we lose, you're jinxing it. I'm not jinxing it. I'm giving my honest opinion. I think too many people are probably quite rightly looking back at previous results and going, oh, we've seen all this before. But I genuinely think at home we've been better this season. And I think it's too important. I'm not saying it'll be pretty. I mean, I'd love to win 3 or 4-0 and really send a message. But I think 2-0 and it might not be pretty, but it's still 3 points. It's a clean sheet. And be 3 wins in a row, and it puts us, as I say, in the top 5. So I think we've waited for this for a long time. I think they owe it to Amorim. I think they owe it to the fans, and it will come down to the players today. And I think they've had so many of these games that I just can't see them not turning the light on. We know they're light switch players, but I just can't see them not turning up, really. But look, you know, anything can happen in football. As somebody said last night, what if Casemiro gets sent off in the first 10 minutes? We're done. We're literally done. So, you know, those things can happen. But what if a Brighton player gets sent off? You know, the one thing about the long ball is it creates space. And if you get in a situation where Mbeumo gets ahead of somebody again, and, you know, it's Lewis Dunk who's not quick and he pulls him down, you know, who's to say we won't win against 10 men again? David says, everyone is desperate for us to lose. Come on, United. Well, and that's what supporting United's all about for me, you know. Hated, adored, but never ignored. And there'll be a lot of team. You know, the media want us to lose. The media don't like the fact that Amorim sat there, you know, having a good time. They want to bring him down. So I'm excited for it, and I look forward to spending my evening with you. 5:30 kickoff, but I'll be live at 5. Obviously, we've got countdown to kickoff from 3:30 as well. So yeah, make sure you smash a like and subscribe. It's on my shoulder. I've took down the Bundesliga stuff because that's for Friday night. So lovely new Christmas jumper. They're not shipping yet. They're available for pre-order. They start shipping in November, early November, so in about a week's time. But we've already sold half of them. So they're going fast, and when they're gone, they are gone. We do ship worldwide, like I said. So check it out through United Stand Shopify Christmas section, or you can go through the live chat. Thanks everybody for watching. I look forward to seeing you later. I like a morning show when it's a match day, and it's a very important match day. So have a good day preparing for it, and I will reconvene with you later on today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll speak to you all in a bit.